to JS Podcast. Today I have Chris Leddy. Chris Leddy is an estate planning lawyer, and he's a managing partner or owner of Heritage Law Firm. So, Chris, welcome.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for having me
Yeah.
on.
How are you doing today?
Doing great, man. I'm down in sunny northeast Florida, and life is good down here.
That's good. That's great. So yeah, you mentioned you watched a few of these episodes, so you kind of know what's coming. My first question usually is, where are you today, and what kind of hats are you wearing today?
Wow, that's a there's a lot to unpack with that question. Just for me personally, because I just had my fourth baby about a month ago.
Awesome.
So
Congrats.
thanks. Yeah, so we've got three little girls and a boy. Um, Order is girl, girl, boy, girl. So just had our third daughter,
Okay.
and she's been doing great. But sleep is something that I take it when I get it.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah. I actually have four kids as well, but they're a bit older than yours. So I'm out of that stage, um it gets interesting. It gets, you at that stage you worry about smaller things about them, and then when they get older, you worry about bigger things for them.
one of the I guess most eye-opening things for me was coming home from the hospital the day of delivery, and I've got to help the oldest with her homework. Our middle was having a little bit of a meltdown over something. My son just kind of needed his to do his nighttime routine, and it really hit me. I was like, these are four, you know, including the baby. These are four different humans at different stages of life who all have different unique needs. And so that was a eye-opening thing. So I've been wearing the hat of dad a lot lately, but also wearing the hat of managing attorney at Heritage Law Firm. Kind of transitioning growth, as you know. I was based in Charlotte for, gosh, 6 years. And then we made the move to the St. Augustine area last
Mhm.
summer. So that transition as well has been a big part of it. And I finally feel, when our youngest got here, I finally feel like it chaos, of course, but starting to settle down into the groove of what life is going to be like. So I'm excited. Things are going well and exciting right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the move itself can definitely be challenging. We moved from Rochester, New York to Charlotte, and um, it was definitely a challenging move, but it was good. So you ended up in Florida now, and you are a managing attorney. You own your practice, right?
That's right. Yeah, I was. I actually started it in 2017 with two of my friends from law school, and we've since gone our separate ways. And so I'm the sole owner of Heritage Law Firm.
Hmm.
Uh, and so what we focus our practice on is estate planning. We want to make sure we are helping clients avoid family disputes. We want to make sure that when you come to me for an estate plan, it's an expression of exactly what your wishes are at the time. And we want to make sure that, if we can, we give strategies to try to help our clients and their families stay out of probate, right? We want to avoid probate. That's another portion of my business is probate estates and trust administration. I would say about 85% of my business is planning. We like to help people with that kind of transactional side to make sure your affairs are in order. The other 10% is probably probate trust administration, and then the remaining 5% would be fiduciary litigation, where you encounter a situation where a trustee or an executor has maybe done something they shouldn't have. So how do we make our clients whole again on the back end? Sometimes it involves bringing suit.
Hmm. So you're at this stage in your life now. How did you get here? And by that I mean, like, if you could start way back, as back as you want, like childhood or middle school, high school. Who were you back then?
Yeah, well, so like you, I lived in New York, but only did that for about 5 years. When I was five, I didn't have a say in it. My family moved to Stuart, Florida. So that's a small town just north of Jupiter, um, and I lived there through college, through my college years. I guess that was my address. So grew up in Stuart, small town, very just laid back, kind of easy living. It was great. I went to school back, gosh, 2007. It's like forever ago, but that's when I went to college at University of South Florida in Tampa, and I did well. I got a Bachelor of the Arts in Political Science and History. So for anyone who is pursuing that degree, you'll figure out quickly that law school is one of your only options in the job market. There's certainly other careers out there. Not for me. I love being an attorney, but went to USF for 4 years. I got, like I said, political science history. I had a minor in marketing, if you can believe that, and then decided to move back home. I lived in Jensen Beach for a couple of years, and I worked in government. I worked at the supervisor of elections office in Martin County, and that was a wonderful experience for me. What I did in that role at the elections office was I was in charge of the voting equipment, making sure the voting equipment was properly calibrated, making sure that our poll workers, who are all volunteers, they get paid a small stipend, but all volunteers, really little older demographic, understood how to handle the machines, how to make sure that they were functioning properly. And so I was the election systems assistant at the elections office, and I helped out through the 2012 election. And after spending a couple years in government, nothing against it, but I just realized it wasn't for me. And so I started applying to law schools, applied to various law schools in Florida and the Carolinas. And I actually was accepted into Charlotte School of Law up in Charlotte. And so I started there in 2013 and graduated 2015. And it got me to where I am today. I got to pass the South Carolina bar, the North Carolina bar, and the Florida bar in that order. And I became a licensed attorney shortly after. You get your results back. And worked for a couple of different attorneys in the area, and realized that I could do it. And so we had kind of a meeting at my kitchen table, me and two friends from law school, and they were kind of in the same boat where we're trying to figure out where we're going with our legal career. And we decided to open up Heritage Law Firm. And it was actually an idea that was birthed in law school. I took a small and solo firm class. I guess it was called Small and Solo Practice. And it really was a hands-on class that kind of, you did everything from making a business plan to designing a logo, coming up with branding. And that's where this logo was actually birthed. So it was a lot of fun to do. And I've just kind of kept with it for the last, now going in my seventh year of practice.
That's nice. Um, yeah, definitely a great path. Got a couple of questions. One, I don't know if I should ask you a controversial question. Should I go for that one?
Go for it.
So you said you were working in kind of the elections area with making sure the election machines are working great and stuff. And we had a whole controversy in 2016 or well 2020 with the elections and stuff like that. What kind of from your experience working in that area, how probable is it that some of the election is not really the way it should be?
That's it. Wow. I was not expecting a question like that. I'll say this: each state, each Secretary of State is in charge of how they conduct elections in the state. Um, and so the state legislature actually comes up with the rules, and the Secretary of State or the equivalent in every state is responsible for executing those rules effectively. And Florida, for example, is a state where I think they have it like, I mean, it is such a great process in the state of Florida when you're voting. They require a photo ID to go in to cast a ballot. If you do vote by mail or absentee, they have various fail safes with their signature process to make sure that the person who submitted the ballot is actually the person who's voting. And so, they do it right in the state of Florida. There's a paper ballot. There's a paper trail for every election. Recounts are automatically triggered if the margin of victory is within a certain percentage. Florida does it well. As far as other states, I've not, I have concerns and issues. Having lived in North Carolina, lived in South Carolina, I have concerns and issues with some of their, the way they conduct elections. I do think a photo ID should be mandatory. It was very unusual the first time I voted in North Carolina. I just walked in the precinct, said my name, and they handed me a ballot. Didn't have to pull my ID out or anything to prove I was who I was. I thought that was strange. And so I think that if more states would follow the Florida model, and if you look historically, Florida, after they had that big debacle in 2000, they really got it right after the fact, and they're one of the first states that can accurately report their results after the election ends. And so I think if more states would follow the Florida model, we'd have less of an issue nationwide. As far as where the evidence points on maybe some foul play in the 2020 election, I certainly think that some of the elements of what happened, and the evidence of just with the geo-tracking of phones and ballot harvesting, I don't necessarily think that every state was doing the right thing. I guess I'll leave it at that. But I'd like to see all 50 states adopt the Florida model personally, just because I think having worked on that side, I can tell you it's a streamlined process that you can have confidence in the election. I think that's really what people are yearning for, is confidence in their voting systems.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we'll go back to the normal question. What about in high school? Who were you like in high school? Were you playing any kind of sports? Were you part of any high school clubs, or what was your high school life like?
Yeah. Well, we had a very diverse high school. I went to public high school, and I had some friends. I was in International Baccalaureate, so it's an IB program. It's similar to AP, Advanced Placement. Very similar in that you get some college credit for passing your classes. And so I was doing those classes, and then the first 3 years of high school I was like straight A student, and then my senior year, once I got accepted into college, I'm not recommending this for anyone listening, but I had the whole alphabet on my report card. I had A, B, C, D, and F. So that happens. You get burnt out. I played football, and growing up, I always loved football. I loved playing football with friends in the neighborhood, and my dad just wouldn't let me play competitive football because of his upbringing. He was a linebacker, and he had some gruesome stories from what was happening in the 70s. And so it was my it was my sophomore year. Spring football practice came out, tryouts, and I said I'm going to do this, and I just started playing football. My junior year, I was in varsity, and I actually asked to step down to JV just to learn a little bit more and become a better player. I was a wide receiver, tight end, and one of the things I to this day love about football is that it gets you almost like a military training. It's very, you're there for the team. The purpose of the team is greater than self. You're putting others before self, and you're really in it, with the guys, and you're all fighting together. And that aspect of football, I think, it just is something you can carry in life, with family and with business. You're a team. I also volunteered. We had a lot of hurricanes growing up. We got hit back to back with Hurricane Jean, Hurricane Francis, and there was a lot of opportunity to help the community out. So I volunteered with the Red Cross and did hurricane cleanup. I also just volunteered at the Red Cross. Learned about learning CPR, donating blood. Those are all things that are very important to me. And I actually, through volunteer efforts and athletics, and I played a little guitar at the time, I actually was a recipient of the Gold Congressional Award in high school. It's a prestigious award that's only given out to, I think the age range is, kids between the ages of 14 and 24, and you have to put in a lot of time into what you're doing, and you've got to put in like 400 hours of community service, 200 hours of personal development, 200 hours of physical fitness. You have to go on an expedition, and so I got that award, and I was awarded that my spring of my senior year in high school. I actually got to go up to Washington, D.C. To accept it from my congressman at the time, so that was a really cool thing. And it did set the stage for who I strive to be, which is someone who's active in the community, helping out, doing the right things, and that's kind of what I try to carry the congressional award, that mentality with how I approach client matters and how I just approach business.
So back back in high school, what was your motivation behind kind of trying to do all of those things, like volunteering, um, especially volunteering? Like what was motivating you to want to volunteer?
Fear of dad would be a good one. I had a moment in the summer. I'm just like playing video games my freshman year, maybe going into my freshman year of high
Mhm.
school. I'm just playing video games on the couch, and my dad comes in, turns off the game, picks me up, and says, we're going to the Red Cross. You're gonna do something better than this." And and as a 13, 14-year-old, I was distraught initially. I wanted to play my video games, and he took me there, and I got to meet with the coordinator, got to meet with other kids my age who were in their youth volunteer program, and I really liked it. And I said, "When am I coming back?" He said, "Well, it's the same time next week." And so we just kept doing that. And so fear of dad was a big motivator, but it morphed into, you know, wanting to do good
Mhm.
for others in the community.
And then during high school, your junior year, senior year, when you were applying for colleges, uh, who was kind of the most, who had the most influence on you in terms of um, encouraging you to go on to college?
Well, when I was, I think when I was a kid, when I was like 4 or 5, I would always dress up in suits. And my dad always thought that I would be on the path to law school and becoming a lawyer. And so
Mhm.
he was very encouraging into that, you've got to go to college mindset. And so we actually started, like, he did a lot of the groundwork early. I'm talking my sophomore, junior year. We were practicing for the SAT, making sure that I, had the right scores, and looking at different schools. And he, you know, just getting into it early was very important for me, because I don't know if I would have, if I had done it later. And then the other thing that was important for him was, how are we going to pay for this? You need to apply for some scholarships. Florida has had a wonderful program called Bright Futures, where if you have a certain GPA, you hit certain benchmarks, you can have 75% of your tuition or 100% of your tuition paid for by the state. So applying for that, and that really did get me into and through school. Um, and I would say, I was actually the first. I want to, as far as my memory serves me, I was the first kid in my class accepted into college. I only applied to USF because I knew that I wanted to go there. I toured the school with my dad. I fell in love with the campus, fell in love with the idea of, being close to home, but not too close. It was about 3 hours away. And I also wanted to play football. I wanted to walk on and play football. That changed my freshman year when the team was second best in the country for a period of time. They were doing really well. They were 6-0. They were up there with Ohio State and how people were talking about them. So I said, well, maybe I'll just do flag football and intramural football. And we actually my senior year won the school championship, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, I realized that an athletic career was not going to be for me, and so I focused on my studies. But yeah, he was a driving force in that college admission process as well. And I can't thank my dad enough because of that early groundwork that was laid sophomore and junior year. It made taking the SAT a breeze.
What was your relationship with your dad like, in terms of like his guidance for you? Like it seems like you listened to him and kind of followed the path that he laid out in front of you.
Yeah, and that path was more of a do as I say, not as I do path, which makes it a little hard because he didn't take the same path in life, certainly. I wasn't really close to my dad when I was a kid. Probably when I was 13 or 14 is when I started getting close to my dad. And I really did look up to him. We, spent summers rebuilding a car from, we found a car online that was cheap, not running, and then we got it running, and it served its purpose for 5 years for me or so. And so that was a cool experience learning how to do that and also learning what I don't want to do, right? Because one of the lessons with rebuilding this engine, dropping the transmission, rebuilding that, putting it all back together, making sure the car is painted was this is a lot of work with your hands that you can do, but do you want to do this the rest of your life? And I said, no, I think I'll stick to the books a little bit. So
Yeah. Um, so in college, what was your life like in college? What are some unique things that you can relate or tell us about?
college is fun. there was I had I had some really good friends in college, and I think that shaped me into being the man I am today. And I think it shaped a degree of my success because in college I didn't drink until I was 21, really. I had a group of friends where rather than go out and drink or do whatever all the other freshmen are doing, um, we went and played basketball, went and played football, played some Madden, played some NCAA. We were just having a good time sober. Um, and that, it was a lot of athletics in college for me that kind of kept me on the right path, I think. And that was, I also worked. I wanted to have a little extra cash during college, and so I worked at the campus rec center. And for the most part, I took the early morning shift, and so that early morning shift is from 6 to 10, and so
Mhm.
I've got to be there at 5:30 in the morning every day, Monday through Friday, to help out with stuff around the rec center. So that coupled with actually going to class, coupled with having a good group around me, got me pointed in the right direction for sure.
What would you recommend to somebody who's just getting out of high school, or maybe they're junior or senior in high school and they're trying to figure out what path to take in their life, like whether to go to college, whether to go into workforce or military? What would you recommend for them to do to figure out what they should do with their life?
Yeah, I've actually thought about this, and I think about this. I think partially because I've got kids. You know, my oldest is turning 7, so we're a way off from that. But I think that my advice to my kids is going to be figure out what you like to do, figure out what you're interested in, figure out if you're good at what you're interested in, and pursue that. Because if you can find a career that you enjoy doing, like I have, it's not, you know, going to work is not this thing that you dread of Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. It's fun. It's something, you know, you can get passionate about, and so find what that is. Would be my advice to my kids, and hopefully, if the response is, you know, well, I rather do X, Y, and Z. Hopefully, that is something that you see for your kids is something that they can be successful at and make money.
Mhm.
Because again, you know, I've got 4 kids and they all have different personalities and all have different interests. Right now, one of my kids wants to be a stay-at-home mom. She also wants to be a teacher. She also wants to be an astronaut. She also, you know, it's like she's got all these things that sound cool. Um, which one are you going to be most happy with?
Yeah. Um, so what was it like in terms of you meeting your wife? What I'm thinking more of my son, especially. He's going to be 16.
Yeah.
He's in the dating age or whatever you want to call it. What would
Yep.
you recommend for somebody, 16 and up as far as dating and what's the point of it and th all that kind of related topic.
I spent a lot of my youth um, looking for, you know, whoever, looking for a partner.
Hmm.
Uh, and it was only when I stopped looking and focused on myself is when I found Macy. I actually met Macy. I so one of my law partners graduated in, you know, in May of 16, and afterwards we went to like this summer festival that was going on at Sycamore Brewing down in Charlotte, and so the plan was to go do that. And so we're at this brewery, and there's a ton of people there. They've got music, they got all these cool things going on, and she was playing cornhole, and I wanted to play cornhole, and so we we played cornhole together, um, and then it just kind of evolved into a marriage and a family. I don't know how to, you know, I can't. There was something about Macy when I met her that I knew she was the one, and I actually told her the day I met her that I was going to marry her. Um, and she thought I was crazy, and then here we are. I guess I was right. Um, but I just knew. I just knew she was my person. And so we, you know, that was on Friday, and I think on Monday we went out to dinner, and we just planned to have, like, we went to get tacos somewhere, and we wound up staying there for 4 hours. We closed it down. I mean, we stayed there like a half hour after close. We didn't even know it was closed. We were just talking and learning about each other, and so that, and it was just organic and great. It was like I've found a needle in a haystack with the dating world. I mean, gosh, I couldn't imagine what it's like now to be a kid with everything that's, you know, available as far as resources, how to meet people. You know, I would just say, work on yourself, and that right person's going to come along in your life. Don't go searching for it. It'll happen when it's supposed to happen in God's time.
Hmm. What have you thought of marriage would be like before you were married, and what is it now? Like, what did you think it was going to be like that it's not, and what did you think it wasn't going to be like that it is?
Marriage is awesome. Um, it, what I think, I don't really know what I thought it would be like, other than I've got my person, and that's my partner, and I guess that's exactly what it has been for me. I'm very blessed with that, because I understand that not a lot of marriages have that kind of partnership feel to it, but she really is. We complement each other, and that's been the most eye-opening thing about our relationship, is that where I'm weak, she's strong, and vice versa. And so we're a good complement to one another. We have just, over time gotten to know each other. I mean, I met Macy before we even started this law firm, and I couldn't have done it without her support along the way. I'm not talking financial support, I'm talking just straight up being there for me. Like if I've got a long day at the office, I come home and there's food in the fridge. Like she's got it ready for me. She's just thoughtful, and that's been, I guess I just got really lucky with my spouse, because it's a partnership. It is.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some, what do you feel are some keys to having a great marriage?
Communication. You've got to talk a lot about everything that's going on, everything that you're wanting to do. I mean, we have so much going on right now with 4 kids, a business, and getting settled in right now. I finally feel like we're settled into our new house, and um, we couldn't have done that without always talking. For example, we've got, like, one of my daughters has a school event on Tuesday. I didn't hear about this. Macy did. She keeps an eye out on, like, the important school emails. My oldest just got an award for, they go to San Juan del Rio. It's a private Catholic school down here. She just got an award for love. It's one of the 7 virtues that they pick students in each class who are exuding those virtues, and then they give an award after the Wednesday morning mass. And so we got, like, a last minute notification of that, and I was able to move some things around and attend. And just what's going on in the kid's life, what's going on in your life. One thing we're failing to do right now that I think is absolutely very important, crucial, critical thing you must do with your spouse, is go on dates and have just you and her time. Right now it's hard because we've got a month-old child. But what we started doing before Charlotte was born is we were going on a date once a month, just to, we just started getting out of the house. We found some good caretakers down here that we would trust, and started doing that, and we'll be picking that up in the coming months. But that is something that is very important. Is your spouse is your person, and you've got to put time in with that person. You can't just go through the motions of your day and not talk and not plan on having a date. So those are definitely, that's one of the most important things I would recommend, that we're not doing, that we're failing to do right now, but under the circumstances, it is what it is. So
Yeah, I'm sure you'll get back into it
yeah,
after the
right.
baby grows a little bit. What about having kids? Like if you had any expectations beforehand, what is it like versus what you expected it to be?
Um, so I think I always knew that I wanted to have a big family.
Hmm.
I'm Catholic. I was raised Catholic. I didn't get confirmed into the church until actually law school. My parents we just missed the boat on confirmation when I was a kid growing up, and I always wanted to do it. I always wanted to get confirmed, and so I'd go to church in college. But the way those confirmation classes work, the RCIA, Rites of Christian Initiation to Adulthood, the way those classes would work is, just the timing was never good for me, because I would go home for spring break, or I'd travel, or I'd have to miss. Um, and when I moved to Charlotte, I actually got settled into Charlotte, and decided in the fall that I'm entering law school, that I wanted to take the RCIA class at St. Peter's downtown. And I was confirmed, that following Easter. And so that's been kind of my journey of faith. And but I knew that, for me as an adult man, you're called to, procreate, um, you know, uh, be fruitful and multiply. And so that's what
Yep.
we've done. And so kids have just, it's always been something I think I knew I was going to be a father. Um, I think that's just been programmed in me forever. When we first had our oldest in 2017, you got to understand, I'm, studying for one bar exam. We're trying to figure out how to get the law firm up and running. We just moved into a house, and so we, had a lot going on, and it was overwhelming at first. But it's an adjustment, and I think you find out a lot about who you are as a person when you start to have kids, because you have to almost, like if you're playing a video game, you have to level up. You have to become that person that your family needs you to be. And so you've got really, no choice in it. I mean, it's either do it. I don't think failure is something necessarily that exists. I
Mhm.
don't know how to describe that any better than that. Because it's either you achieve what you're striving for, or you don't. And if you don't, you just go back and do it, and until you get there. So there's not really a me in failure, I guess. You don't see those two letters there. So um, it's just not something that you can do when you're a new father.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I guess failure would be giving up. I guess like if you give up, then you failed. But if you don't give up, you can learn from your mistakes.
Keep at it. Exactly. Exactly. You either get it or you learn. Those are the two things.
Yeah. So what's kind of motivating you these days to get up and do what you need to do?
The addition of one more family member, maybe. No, that that is it's a motivator every day. Um, I think I'm in a fun position that I haven't been in for, since I started the law firm,
Hmm.
because we started in Charlotte and grew it nicely. Had a nice presence in the Charlotte area. Had nice, professionals who we'd work with, in the community. I met you through a referral group. We've done, we did a lot of that groundwork in Charlotte, and then when I pick up and move headquarters down to North Florida, well, now I've got to do that all over again, because I don't have a name down here. I don't have, kind of the same community partners that we've worked with down here. So I'm in that building phase again, which is actually really fun. Entrepreneurship is, as you know, it feels like a roller coaster sometimes. You've got months where it's high and then months where it's low. so
Right.
so I'm, you know, I had that roller coaster in Charlotte, kind of going more stable, right?
Hmm.
And now back in, the Jacksonville, Northeast Florida area, it's the up and downs, which is fun, because I know where this goes if I just put the time and effort in. So that's a motivating factor for sure, is building the firm in in the Northeast Florida region.
And now, I mean, after the move, sure, you have to get, like you mentioned, new contacts, new customers, like develop your name in that area. But you've done it before in Charlotte, so you know what it takes, right? So you have experience. Because you have experience, it makes it a little bit or that much easier. Not that it's easy, but
Yeah, yeah, it's a challenge, but it's a challenge in familiar waters.
yeah.
And so I know sometimes when the waters are going to get rough, what we've got to do to hunker down. So,
What's um what's kind of that law environment like? What is it like to be a lawyer?
well, all three states are incredibly different when it comes to probate. Um, and so that's, from a probate standpoint, from an estate administration standpoint, there's work that needs to be put in to have just familiarity in the laws of your state, and not only the laws of your state, but the laws of your county, because each county does things a little differently too.
Hmm.
And so navigating that has been fun. I've dove in, head first into some probate matters down here, and I've gotten the results that were expected. The thing that I tried to, I guess my learning curve has more been like setting the expectation for clients on timeline of when things will go through. Because when I, was practicing in Mecklenburg and Lancaster and York and Union counties up in, that's the greater Charlotte area, what I would learn is kind of the nuances to the county so I could properly advise the client of exactly what to expect and exactly when to expect it. When I start a case, whether it's an estate or a litigation matter, there was, when I started my career, there was learning that. And then within a year or so, I was able to have a discussion with a client who was heading down a similar path and explain, okay, at this point in time, this is what you can expect. This point in time, this, and then give them kind of a reasonable expectation of closing the case. Obviously, with COVID, a lot of that kind of threw up in the air. But learning that down here, because it's almost like they handled COVID really well in Florida, so it was like less of a hiccup for the counties down here. So that's been, the multi-jurisdictional aspect of this has been a challenge. As far as like how to do planning, there's a lot of similarities in the states that I practice in. Some of the distinctions are more on the elder law side of it, where we have a client who is planning to go into a nursing home, and their family's contacting me, and we're trying to figure out the best strategy to protect assets, so that they can sort of leave a legacy for their loved ones. And the way to approach that is unique in Florida because they have a very good life estate deed that you can do here, not necessarily available in North Carolina at this time, subject to a change in law that they discuss every year at the conference, but they haven't done yet. So there's the way, the way you advise clients is unique in each jurisdiction. But as far as, just general planning for someone like in my position, where you're looking through, you've got 4 kids, a wife, a house, a business, you can kind of approach some of that in a similar fashion.
Hmm. What would you say separates like the great attorneys from the so-so attorneys?
Well, I think that would be how you're defining greatness, because there are some attorneys who, you can see a big billboard of them, you see TV commercials, you see, all these advertisements for them. A lot of money's poured into that, and that money comes from somewhere. But for those lawyers, uh, you know, if that suits them and that's what they want to be the biggest personal injury attorney in the country. They want to be the biggest litigation firm in the country. Then pursuing it and doing those things is that's greatness. If you are like me, and let's say that I've got a small boutique law firm, but let's say I wanted to scale that to the biggest estate planning law firm in the country, then yeah, I would have to be doing those things. But I like to take a more personal approach with my clients. I want my clients to know me. I want them to deal with me rather than just a paralegal. So I don't need my face on a billboard. I don't even need my name on the law firm. I branded it as Heritage Law Firm because I wanted to brand a firm that is bigger than me, that is something that can survive after I'm gone and provide for other attorneys who have the same passion. And so I think it just really depends on how you define greatness. Certainly there's fantastic litigators out there. There's fantastic personal injury lawyers, there's fantastic, tax attorneys, and so it your greatness is going to be, not necessarily in the billboards and the advertisement and the show offy stuff. I think it's more going to be in the results and the way your clients can appreciate your results for them. I'm in a unique situation with the transactional boutique law firm where a lot of my cases are not adversarial. And so my clients will come to me for a thing, I will do the thing for them, and they'll leave happy. And I think that was shaped, that idea was shaped and instilled in me in an internship that I had during law school. I worked for an attorney who had been practicing for 35 years at the time in the Charlotte area. He was very well known, and all he did was estate planning. He said, I asked him the same question, why do you do this? Why don't you want to be, that great attorney that's on all the ads and all this? He said, my clients like me. I come to work, I help them out. They leave happy, I leave happy, and it's really a good area of law to do that.
So maybe a similar question to that, but from the client's perspective, like if a client is looking for an attorney, kind of similar to what you're doing, estate planning, how do they determine who is better than the other? Like instead of getting just anybody, the so-so attorney, they want to get a great attorney. Great being that they will get the best results, the best experience with that attorney.
Well, there's great attorneys everywhere. There's fantastic attorneys that do what I do literally in my neighborhood. And the thing is, I think when you're trying to find what a great attorney is for you, it's somebody that you have, the way I look at it from being the lawyer, because the attorney-client relationship is a mutual relationship. I don't have to represent anybody. I can have a consultation with somebody and just something about that consultation or that potential client just doesn't seem like a good fit for me. So what I would suggest in my field is an attorney who you trust to do the job, an attorney that you connect with on different levels, because that trust is earned through various things. Do you want an attorney who has experience? I certainly have that and I'm still gaining that. Or do you want an attorney who is going to hand this off to a paralegal to draft and finalize, and then you just meet him at the signing appointment? That's not necessarily for me. But that's just kind of the inner workings of how this area of law is. I think for me, I like representing families. I like representing folks who, I'm Catholic, like I said. I like representing individuals who take their religion seriously, whether it's Catholicism, whether it's an evangelical Christianity, whether it's Judaism, whether it's they're Muslim. I have different ways to tailor an estate plan to meet your religious needs. So I like that aspect of it, because it's not something that every attorney does in this field. And so you just have to have a good connection with your lawyer. I like meeting all my clients and shaking their hand. I want to be the guy for them to help them with this thing, which is estate planning, wills, trusts, powers of attorney, etc.
Yeah. So, what are those areas that maybe average people are not aware of when it comes to estate planning or kind of managing their assets through estate planning?
Yeah. Well, what I would say is, kind of, this is to piggyback off of that thing we were just talking about a little bit, is that for me, as if I was just a member of the public, a client looking for a lawyer, one of the big red flags for me would be that general practitioner who practices divorce, traffic, and estate planning. Where's your focus? Because they're very unique areas of law. Again, there's fine general practitioners out there. But to me, the jack of all trades is a master of none.
Mhm.
And so I think that if you're looking to get an estate plan, you want to find an attorney who focuses their practice on estate planning because they're going to know changes in law. They're going to know, I mean, for example, the federal, you know, estate tax exemption just increased this year. It increases every year. Um, but it increases January 1 of every year. And your general practicing attorney might not know that. That could provide fatal errors for your estate plan. Same thing with the annual gift exclusion. Increases every year. You want to talk to somebody who knows about it. And so my area of law, when you think about it, people think about estate planning as wills, powers of attorney, trusts. There's all kinds of different types of trust. There's all kinds of different types of ways to structure your plan. And just kind of as a basic level thing, there's a testamentary trust which is formed under your will that doesn't exist until you pass away. And then there's an inter vivos trust, which is a lifetime trust that is formed during your lifetime and is managed during your lifetime. And then you have successor trustee provisions where someone else takes over. Well, when you get into the inter vivos trusts, now you have to look at, okay, do we want to look at a revocable living trust for our clients? Will that serve their needs? Or do we need to do some asset protection? And so the living trust is really kind of the most common because the client can maintain control over their assets, and they can manage those assets and avoid probate after death. But then when you look into the irrevocable trust, there's all kinds. There's special needs trust, which can be a first person special needs trust or a third person third party special needs trust. Very distinct, very important on how you structure that, because if you structure it wrong, you might be reimbursing the state with the money that's in that trust if you're doing it as a first person. Then you have, irrevocable life insurance trust, you have Medicaid asset protection trust, VA asset protection trust, general asset protection trust. These are all types of irrevocable trusts that exist, that knowing a lawyer who understands these distinctions will get you set up in the right spot for your unique financial situation.
So what are kind of the key customers or clients that should be, or people that should be looking into trust or looking into estate planning? What's that profile? Is it like a business owner? Is it a person who has certain savings or stocks or whatever investments? Or like, what is that ideal person that should be looking into estate planning?
Yeah. I have this conversation sometimes with potential clients who will fill out our worksheet, and we'll get on the phone or we'll get on a Zoom call and we'll talk about, what's in it. And what they'll say is, well, I don't have much. Well, that could be true, but I don't like to think of your estate plan as not having much. If you own a house, if you own a business, if you have a retirement account, you have some things that we need to address. And so I guess the ideal client for me, or kind of who I work with most, is a combination of, I would just say, generally speaking, it's folks who are going through a life change or going through realize and recognize their mortality. Those are really the kind of the two types of folks that come in: people who are going through a life change, or people who understand that that time is limited in certain, death and taxes are the only two certainties. And so understanding that the death part will happen is, type of folks who come to me. People coming to me with a life change involve, usually folks who just had a baby, folks who have kids. If you have a baby, or, as soon as you have minor children, if you don't get a will, I think you are doing a disservice to your minor children. And the reason is because if something happens to you and your spouse, or if you're unmarried, the parent of your children or child, if something happens to both of you and you don't have a will, who is going to be the guardian and caretaker for your kids? Where are they going to go? You don't want them to be a ward of the state. You don't want them to end up in foster care. You don't want any of that. So I think it's almost negligent for new parents to not talk to an attorney about estate planning, just at a minimum getting a will. But then, people going through birth, death, divorce, or marriage are really the four life events. And then folks who move, if you're moving from out of state, if you move to another state, every state has different laws. And let's say you had a trust and will in North Carolina. Now you move to Florida. A good viable option would be to restate that trust consistent with Florida law and understand kind of the nuances to the different laws of the state, so that you can effectively take advantage of the new state's laws. Business owners who are starting out come to me as well, because I view business planning as kind of a subsection of estate planning and family planning. And so I do help business owners when it comes to making sure you have a good operating agreement if you're an LLC, making sure if you're a corporation you've got that good shareholder agreement, because things happen, disputes happen. We want to make sure that if something does happen, your documents are in line and you know what the process is going to look like going forward. And so business owners are also a good, I guess, a target market for me, because naturally your business, especially if you're a small business owner, you can probably appreciate this. Your business is it almost defines you, and it's almost who you are, and so it's very interconnected with your estate plan.
Yeah. In terms of family, like there's a lot of stories where um like the father or the mother dies and the children kind of end up fighting over whatever is left, even though it's like a really sad scenario. But at the end, for whatever reason, even if it's like tiny assets, there's like rifts within the family. What would you say is like how can people prevent that for their own families?
The best way to prevent it is to take a proactive approach to your estate plan, because all of the cases that I have right now that are litigated, whether we're challenging a will, whether we're trying to challenge lifetime gifts, whether we're just going through the motion of nothing set up and there's minor children involved, all of those are causing issues for my clients. And so the best way that all of these things could have been mitigated, and I go back to this all the time when I talk to them about it, is have your plan set up the right way. Because if you don't, then the same thing that is happening to you right now is going to happen to your kids. And so try to break some of those generational traumas and curses, I guess, is very important. I've got a case out in Lancaster right now that we're finally getting wrapped up. That's taken about 2.5 years. And, dad was going through a divorce with mom, and there was 5 kids, and a couple of them were minors at the time. And so it's just been messy because mom didn't want to cooperate with signing paperwork initially, because of the separation. So it just caused unnecessary delays. And thanks to the efforts of my client, we were able to get the house sold before it was foreclosed. And there's actually going to be some funds left over for everyone else. But this whole thing could have been mitigated through proper planning. I
Hmm.
mean, point blank, get it done, get your will done, get your trust done, and then if you need to change it later, change it. I mean, that's the thing about all, for the most part, if I'm dealing with a client who does not need an irrevocable trust, everything we're preparing for them can be updated or amended in the future. So, as life happens, update your stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some like personal hobbies, personal health kind of taking care of yourself? Like what are some good habits that you would recommend for other people?
Well, I've been going through um, a almost a rebirth being down in Florida,
Mhm.
because the weather is great here year round, and so golf has been a good hobby for me. I also like to go out on boat. Been a boat as much as I can. I was taking it out once or twice a month on weekends. In from pretty much until the holidays, and then when the new baby was born, I've been out once since the new baby's been born a month ago. So I like boating, fishing, golf. Staying active is whatever it is. I mean, if you like tennis, if you like basketball, if you whatever you like to do, and then I also work out. I try to work out 4 times a week. This week, I think I'm on track to do more. But I work out at least 4 times a week, and each time before my workout, I actually have a cold plunge. I like to hop in, and I'll do. Well, yesterday I have a chiller attached to it, and I loaned it to a buddy down here, and he's trying it out for a week because he's getting tired of buying ice bags. But usually it gets down to like 34 degrees, and I mean 2 minutes, 3 minutes is plenty for me. I'm out of there after that. Yesterday I think the water temperature was like 54, and I could have stayed in there for half a day. I did it for like 7 minutes, and I was like, all right, I'm done. My wife hopped in and she did 30 seconds. It was also her first time, so it kind of worked out well for her. But working out, staying active, getting outdoors, those are things you definitely want to do.
Yeah. It seems like the cold plunge is I don't know if it's a new thing, but it's definitely becoming more popular these days.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's helping you? Like what do you feel it's doing for you?
Yeah. It so the way I approach the cold plunge is that I try to do it early in the morning because it does a lot for my mental health.
Mhm.
In so much as if I can get in 36 degrees of water for 3 minutes, that's the hardest thing I'm going to do all day. Everything else from there, it's easy. And so I do appreciate that. It also helps with circulation. I sleep better when I do, on the days that I hop in the plunge. Um, that has been a great addition to my little workout center that I have, is that cold plunge. I've taken my health uh, since moving down here. I've been prioritizing my health. I've been taking like supplements. You get your vitamin C, you get your vitamin D, you get your magnesium, your zinc, you get those things. But then I took a genetic test that I think Gary Brecka promotes, and it found out kind of deficiencies in my gene sequence and recommends certain supplements for those deficiencies. So, taking those daily, as well as like hydrogen water. This is like a hydrogen water diffuser, so it diffuses hydrogen right into the bottle. Love that. That's been very helpful. The reason I've taken my health so seriously is because I'm getting older. As a man, we have a lesser life expectancy than our women counterparts. But I want to be there for my kids, and I don't just want to be there. I want to be active and engaged when my kids are growing up. And so I've really taken this part of my life seriously, is fitness and health. And so I think that answered your question. I
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
want
no,
to
that's
the cold plunge is very much recommended.
yeah. It makes sense, especially for the mental health or mental being able to overcome obstacles if
Mhm.
you put yourself in an uncomfortable but safe place.
Yeah,
Get out of your comfort zone.
right. That's right. And I mean, I've adjusted to water at 50 degrees, even the high 40s. It's kind of a walk in the park. I still have not adjusted to 34 degrees.
Yeah.
And I do it 4 times a week, and I've been doing it 4 times a week at that temperature since the holidays. So it's not it's not easy. It's still not
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah. I haven't done it myself, but I hear the same thing from other people where They still don't like doing it. They just do it because it's good for them in the sense that like you're overcoming a challenge for the day type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I got started with like one of those inflatable ones that you find on the internet for like $100. And I tried that out and I said, if I'm going to use this, then if I'm periodic, if I'm regularly using this, then I'll go for like the ice barrel. And ice barrel was having a Black Friday deal, and I've been using the ice bath since August. So from August to November, I was using it regularly. I said, I'm going to go jump and get the big expensive one. So.
Yeah. In terms of your life up to this point, what is like one big challenge that you had to overcome? How did you overcome it? And what was your kind of lessons learned from it?
Wow. Um, there's been a lot of challenges, Jerry. um, Gosh, one big challenge I've had to overcome. I think that, whew, man, I should have been expecting this question too. Based on based on your other podcast. Um, I think that every challenge that I've ever overcome I've had the same mindset, which is there's only passing or learning. There's no failing. And so for me, it's kind of hard to remember or even think about these challenges because I think of just everything that I'm going through in life as something that I'm going to succeed at. I'm going to I'm either going to succeed or I'm going to learn, and then I'm eventually going to succeed. I would probably say right now that the biggest challenge that I'm going to have to overcome has been this relocation of my family and my business from a comfortable market that I was in Charlotte to the Jacksonville St. Augustine area. Right now, that's the challenge that's staring me in the face. And so there's a lot at risk with it because, my business is my primary source of income. And so I have to be successful in what I'm doing. And so I have to build it. And so I guess just just because that's top of mind, I would say that's the biggest challenge because that's what's in front of me. As far as everything else that I've gone through in life, I've certainly had so many blessings. I couldn't have overcome anything without God. I mean, without my faith. That's been that whenever I find challenges just in day to day, whatever it is, you put it to prayer and you keep doing that, and just things are going to happen. And I don't know how to describe it because it's I find signs of my blessings all over. I'll pray for something and then I won't think about it for a couple weeks, and then boom, the solution's there. It's been yeah. I mean, that's all I got right now. The biggest challenge I have is the one in front of me, which is being successful with this
Yeah.
move.
Yeah, and you'll succeed. I'm sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. You mentioned faith a few times, and you mentioned that you're a Catholic. How did you come to the decision to become a Catholic versus any other religion or Protestant or like evangelical or anything like that?
I was raised Catholic, but like I said, my parents kind of weren't the best Catholics. They were what I guess we call C&E Catholic, which is a Christmas and Easter Catholic. They'll show up to church when when you're really called to. But so for me, that that journey in my faith started because of where I was young. But I also, I've also, when I was dating, back in the day, way back before met my wife, I would go check out different churches. And just for me, it never, just the way they conduct the service, it just never felt like home. A Catholic Mass has always felt like home to me because I know the process. I know what, I know what prayers to say. I know what to expect. So it always felt like home. Even if I've gone to the same, non-denominational Christian church multiple times, it still just never felt like home. Um, so I've been called to the Catholic Church, I guess, because of that and upbringing and just my feelings about it. And I've been to the Vatican twice. I That was mind blowing. And Yeah, I don't know. It's the only church that's ever felt like home, and it doesn't matter if that Catholic church is here in St. Johns County, Florida, or in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina. It's all kind of the same. I was in. I started out my faith journey at St. Peter's up in Charlotte, and then I checked out St. Anne's a couple times. And ultimately, St. Matthew's is where we found our home. There's Our Lady of Grace, which is a great parish down in Lancaster. But St. Matthew's was for us, and that was a great environment to go to church on Sunday. Also, a great environment to have a family because they have a Catholic school there. And for us too, I guess it's, as our children have gotten older and those decisions on where they go to school have become more important, I think that their education and our faith have really strengthened our bond to the church. They go to a great Catholic school here, just great sense of community, great people everywhere, in the church and in the school, and it just it's been, it's been home. We're home. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah. What was your experience like visiting Vatican? Like what can you mention about it, or what was something that's unique that maybe people don't know about Vatican?
Yeah, I'm a big history nerd, as I kind of alluded to earlier. So I loved seeing all of the architecture, artwork, and statues. The Vatican museums. We didn't even. You could probably spend a week there and not see everything. We didn't even scratch the surface on all the stuff we saw in the 2 trips we took there, and that was, for me, I guess the sheer volume, like how big the church is, was mind blowing because they have there's an exhibit, and you walk up to it, and they tell you that thing that you're looking at is actually 10 stories high, and it doesn't even come close to reaching the top of the church. It's the biggest church in the world. It is such a beautiful place, and if anyone is ever considering a trip to Rome, definitely stop by the Vatican. It is amazing, to just go in and look at the artwork and the architecture and the paintings and the history and learning about it, and you get to see kind of how it's transformed over the years too. They have some really really cool stuff there.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never been there, but I mean, from what I've seen online or whatever, it's pretty cool.
Bucket list.
Yeah. Have you heard anything about like there's I don't know if it's a theory or whatever it is, of there being a black pope and a white pope, and I don't mean skin color, I mean like a position type of a thing. Do you know much about that?
Uh, I don't delve too much into some of those conspiracy theories because some of them are you know, they do have, so what, just some history on the church. It did, there was a rift between kind of Roman Catholic, which is the Western Church, and then the Eastern Orthodox Church.
Hmm.
And so I think when that happened, there was various, and again, I'm not 100% familiar with how the Eastern Orthodox churches but I think they elevated someone to kind of a pope-like figure, or they elevated various people to and called them pope or something similar. Um, and I think that's a interesting distinction to how the Eastern Orthodox handles it versus the Roman Catholic Church. But I haven't studied it to give kind of an opinion on that.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I watched a video like long time ago. Somebody was trying to explain like the basically the Black Pope supposedly is in the shadows, like kind of um um is the guy that makes up the rules or pulls the strings basically.
Oh, really? So it's someone in the church actually who.
Yeah, it's kind of, but they're not the face of uh of the religion. They're more in the shadows, not hiding, but like yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you know, do I believe that? Would I believe that? Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I think a real world example is look at our United States government right now. It's like who's calling the shots here?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's so much I think with the internet, with people kind of uh being able to get information for themselves instead of the main media feeding it. I think a lot of things are coming or being shown, um, not being hidden anymore.
Yeah, yeah, that's been there's been an awakening, I think,
Yeah.
happening. I'm hopeful that that carries over into the November election a little bit because I think people are really in tune to what's going on right now and they don't like it and they shouldn't like it because I mean we don't need to have a country at war on different fronts and then an invasion at home. It's just the last 4 years have been complete mismanagement, in my opinion, on how
Yeah.
what was set up. The prior four, these last four have just been such a debacle. So
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things in some ways that are out of our control, but in other
mhm.
ways they're in our control. Like if it's a representative government, it needs to represent the people, not special interests. Yeah.
or non-citizens. I mean, come
Right.
on, like I'm all for immigrants coming here, but there's a legal way to do it, and I think that if we would focus on guiding folks towards that and making that more streamlined and easier, I think then everybody can be happy with the level of immigration that's happening. Just chaos at the border and the human smuggling that's happening. It's disgusting some of the things you see, and I really hope we have a change in that soon.
Yeah.
Out of my control, but it's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like you have groups of people, but even within the groups of people, people are like on opposite sides of various issues. I just had a random thought about that. Like it even you can even narrow it down to a family unit. Like you can be within the same family and still people are like, having one point of view, another person has another point of view. Not necessarily with politics, but I wonder if there's a way. Well, there's ways for people to work together, obviously, but like, how do you like elevate that to the national level where it's like, okay, we're part of United States. Sure, we may have different opinions, but let's come to some kind of consensus, some kind of peaceful consensus.
I wish the answer was more communication, but it seems like social media has made that worse. I mean, people have just been so polarized by a different opinion that they just run the other direction when that different opinion sometimes is it might not be what you want to hear, but it's what needs to happen. Um, and it's scary to see. I do fear for our country with that, with how polarized things have gotten. The move to Florida was driven by some of the insanity happening in our locality. There's things that you see. When you hear about a rural public school in North Carolina putting a litter box in a bathroom, you think to yourself, what are we doing? And where can I go where that's not the norm? And so that, for my kids growing up, I want them to have a safe environment to learn. That's it. That's really it. And I want them to learn things that you should be learning as a student. I want you to learn math. I want you to learn reading. I want you to learn history. I want you to learn art. You don't need to be confused about your gender at age 6. And it's I mean, if we could get back to what is the basic function of school? It's to set a safe environment for kids to learn. Great. What is the basic function of government? It's to provide a safe country for its citizens. I mean, let's get back to the basics on some of this stuff and stop, haggling over the nuances of your feelings and everybody has feelings, but your feelings are deceiving you in some of these cases on how to manage your life. You got to have some hard truths. You got to have some hard talks with yourself, and people just let their feelings get in the way. I don't. It's you know.
Yeah. I wonder if more people kind of learn critical thinking skills and kind of thinking for themselves, being able to make good decisions based on um, kind of logic, research, things like that. Maybe that would help.
You teach lawyers that, but then on the back end politically, most attorneys are on the liberal side. So where does the critical thinking go when you're you have thoughts and feelings about how the world should run?
Hmm.
It seems to go by the wayside in some of these things, and I I think it might be the answer just for the general public, but I've seen in my profession where we're taught to critically think, and I see how politically some of my colleagues lean and how they got there, and it's like that's very irrational. So how do we have a discussion about this?
So how do you like? I guess I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand that. Like, is it just some kind of an agenda that people kind of buy into and just drive it, or like can they not see through it? What are they seeing that others are not seeing?
Well, when you have so I'm very I think it's obvious I'm conservative, um, but I'm also very pro environment. I love conservation, and I think that if you can do your part and as much as you can to kind of preserve things, recycle when you can. I have an electric car. I also have a Suburban. There's different, they're completely different ends of the spectrum. But I think that if people would try to listen to others and hear what that other opinion is, I think we could get there. But the problem in some of that is there's financial motivation. For everybody who's telling you to buy an electric car, well, maybe they are going to get a financial windfall from your purchase of an electric car. Let's think about it critically like that. Um, if there's a big push on the news for a vaccine or a electric vehicle or climate change or whatever, who's financially benefiting from it? And are those people the same people that are paying the advertising dollars to the news? Let's have a discussion about where this is coming from, because the United States is not the biggest offender of global emissions. Us doing minimal things here when we already do a pretty good job is not going to change anything. And also, climate's cyclical. We can't have that discussion for some reason.
Mhm.
So it I think the financial motives of people pushing an agenda certainly plays a role. I mean, it has
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Well, Chris, tell us a little bit more about your company, how people can reach you, and just services you offer.
Sure. Right now, I'm accepting clients in the Northeast Florida area. I'm also still servicing clients up in the Charlotte region. Um, my firm is Heritage Law Firm. Our website is www.heritage.law. There's no .com. It's just www.heritage.law. That's where you can learn more about my firm and me. And we also have a link on our website to schedule a consultation. So if you are in the areas that I've listed, and you want to explore your own personal estate plan, I'm happy to meet with you complimentary over the phone or via Zoom. We can do a lot of this stuff virtually. The one thing we can't do virtually is the signing appointment. So there ultimately will be a time where you get to meet your lawyer, which is great. And so we do those signing appointments in our Charlotte office and in our Jacksonville, Florida office. And Jerry, thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate the discussion. I appreciate catching up and the questions. And
Yeah.
I think what you're doing is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's been great having you. I actually ask one more question, one last question before you go. What does the world need more of today?
Empathy.
Yeah.
There needs to be more empathy because if you can put yourself in the shoes of the person you have a disagreement with and you can understand where they're coming from and they can understand where you're coming from, you can come together. And I think that will go a long way into solving pretty much every problem that exists.
Yeah. Yeah. Chris, thank you so much again for joining me
Yeah,
here, for sharing your story, sharing a little bit about the attorney lawyer world and a little bit about your business. So
awesome,
thank
man.
you.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Had a good time.